fairy tale. It's a story of bone-chilling cold, of a ticking clock, and of a bond between man and beast that was forged in the fires of hell. Except this hell was frozen solid. The year was 1925. The place? Nome, Alaska. Now, you have to understand something about Nome. In the winter, it wasn't just a town. It was an island of wood and lanterns trapped in a sea of ice. The Bering Sea was frozen shut. The mountain passes were wall to white with snow. No ships, no planes, no way out. And then the coughing started. He pauses, looking around the room with a somber expression. It was diphtheria. Back then, they called it the strangling angel. It didn't care who you were. It went straight for the children. Dr. Curtis Welch, the only doctor for hundreds of miles, watched his medicine cabinet go empty. He had a few bottles of antitoxin, but they were years past their expiration. He knew if he didn't get fresh serum and get it fast, he'd be burying every child in that town by the end of the month. The nearest serum was in Anchorage, over 1,000 miles away. The governors, the generals, the pilots, they all said it was impossible. The wind was screaming at 80 miles an hour. The temperature? 60 degrees below zero. If you spit, it froze before it hit the ground. But the people of Alaska, they had one thing the rest of the world had forgotten. They had the sled dogs. The race against the Reaper. On January 27th, the Great Race of Mercy began. It was a relay, 20 mushers and 150 dogs. They had to carry 20 pounds of serum wrapped in fur and canvas across nearly 700 miles of the most brutal terrain on the planet. They had 6 days. If they took 7, the children were dead. I want you to imagine being out there. It's 2 in the morning. You can't see your lead dog's tail, let alone the trail. Your eyelashes are frozen together. Your lungs feel like they're being scraped with a razor every time you breathe. That was the world of Leonard Seppala. The man's voice grows more intense, more rhythmic. Seppala was a legend, and his lead dog was a scrawny 12-year-old Siberian husky named Togo. Now, Togo was an old man in dog years. People said he was too small, too old. But Seppala knew better. They had to cross Norton Sound, a shortcut across the frozen ocean. It was a death trap. The ice was shifting. At any moment, a crack could open up and swallow the whole team into the black, freezing water. Seppala was blind in the storm, but Togo could feel the ice. That dog led the team across 90 miles of cracking, groaning sea ice in the middle of a gale. He saved their lives a dozen times over before handing that serum off to the next team. Togo ran 170 miles total. He ran until his paws bled. He ran until his heart nearly stopped. He gave everything he had to save children he'd never even met. The final mile. But the finish line, that belonged to a man named Gunnar Kaasen and a black dog named Balto. It was February 2nd. The storm had reached its peak. It was a black blizzard. Kaasen couldn't even see the dogs closest to the sled. At one point, a blast of wind actually lifted the sled into the air and flipped it. The serum, the only hope for Nome, disappeared into a snowdrift. Kaasen felt his heart drop. He crawled on his hands and knees in the dark, screaming, digging into the snow with his bare fingers until they were numb. And then he felt it. The cold metal cylinder. He strapped it back on and yelled for Balto to move. They made the outskirts of Nome at 5:30 in the morning. The town was silent, waiting for the sound of bells or barks. And then, through the swirl of white, they appeared. Kaasen was so frozen he had to be helped off the sled. He didn't ask for a bed. He didn't ask for coffee. He stumbled to the front of the team, sank to his knees in the snow, and started pulling the ice out of Balto's paws. He just looked at the dog and whispered, "Damn fine dog." The man leans back in the chair, the tension leaving his shoulders. They made it in 5.5 days. They beat the Reaper. Today, people remember Balto's name. There's a statue of him in Central Park. But the truth is, it wasn't just one dog or one man. It was the spirit of the North. It was the idea that when things are at their darkest, when the cold is trying to snuff out the light, we don't stop. We keep moving. We find the trail. So the next time you feel like the world is too cold or the mountain is too high, think of those dogs. Think of the breath of a husky in the midnight sun. And remember, some things are worth running for.